Healer. Some sources say this covenant was engraved on bronze and placed in Jebus, making the city off limits until David's time. So, who were these Jebusites really? Canaanites, Amorites, Hurrians, or perhaps Israelites in disguise? Scholars disagree. Some suggest they were Amorites, others Hurrians, influenced by northern cultures. But regardless of their origin, their traditions point back to one truth: a people of sacred kingship, of serpent symbolism, and of palm fronds in coronation ceremonies. And all these traditions are alive in the Ijebu of Nigeria. In this first step of our journey, we see the beginnings of a great mystery: a Nile shrine called Jebu, a fortified city called Jebus, and in Nigeria, a kingdom called Ijebu, separated by distance, but united by culture and memory. In the next chapter, we will step inside the walls of Jebus itself to understand their worship, their culture, and why God warned Israel so strongly against their ways. Imagine Jerusalem. Before, it was the city of David, its streets echoing with merchants, priests, and soldiers, its gates guarded by the Jebusites, the people who gave the city its earliest name, Jebus. The Jebusites were not a minor tribe. They were builders, strategists, and deeply religious. Their stronghold was no simple village. It was a city of stone, fortified, a symbol of endurance. But what made them unique was not just their walls. It was their worldview. So, who were these Jebusites really? Canaanites, Amorites, Hurrians, or perhaps Israelites in disguise? Scholars disagree. Some suggest they were Amorites, others Hurrians, influenced by northern cultures. But regardless of their origin, their traditions point back to one truth: a people of sacred kingship, of serpent symbolism, and of palm fronds in coronation ceremonies. And all these traditions are alive in the Ijebu of Nigeria. In this first step of our journey, we see the beginnings of a great mystery: a Nile shrine called Jebu, a fortified city called Jebus, and in Nigeria, a kingdom called Ijebu, separated by distance, but united by culture and memory. In the next chapter, we will step inside the walls of Jebus itself to understand their worship, their culture, and why God warned Israel so strongly against their ways. Some Jebusites worshipped the same God Abraham served. Their most famous king, Melchizedek, is remembered in Genesis 14 as the priest of the Most High God, El Elyon. When Abraham returned victorious from battle, Melchizedek blessed him, offering bread and wine. Centuries before the temple, centuries before Christ, Jebusites lifted bread and wine as sacred symbols. This suggests that the Jebusites were not wholly pagan. They may have shared roots of monotheism, or at least recognized El Elyon, the same God Israel would later worship. Yet as generations passed, influences from surrounding Canaanite tribes corrupted their practices. Ritual immorality, sorcery, and even child sacrifice crept in. This explains why Leviticus 18-20 warns, Israel, do not walk in the ways of the Canaanites, for the land has become defiled. The Jebusites stood at a crossroads. They had once been priests of righteousness, but by David's time, their city carried both light and darkness. To the Jebusites, even agriculture was holy. The threshing floor, where grain was separated from chaff, was not merely a workplace. It was a sacred space. When King David later purchased Araunah's threshing floor, he chose it as the site for an altar. That very place became the foundation for Solomon's temple, the holiest site in Israel's history, built on Jebusite ground. This detail is striking. The holiest place in Judaism, where sacrifices were offered, where God's presence dwelled, was originally Jebusite property. It shows that God can redeem even what once belonged to those outside the covenant, transforming it into his dwelling place. Another striking link between the Jebusites and their descendants, the Ijebu of Nigeria, lies in kingship rituals. When the people welcomed Jesus into Jerusalem, they waved palm branches, a custom dating back to the Jebusites. Palms were not just decoration. They symbolized enthronement, authority, and divine blessing. Even today, in Ijebu land, fresh palm fronds crown the coronation of kings. The tradition has survived millennia, carried across continents. This continuity of ritual tells us something profound. Cultures may change names, locations, or languages, but symbols endure. Palms, serpents, sacred trees. These are echoes of an ancient memory that links Jerusalem to Nigeria. The Jebusites were practical people too. Their city bustled with trade. Situated on high ground, Jerusalem controlled water sources and mountain passes. Whoever held Jebus controlled the region. Their homes were built of stone. Their leaders bore Hurrian names, suggesting cultural blending. Some bore titles invoking Zedek, righteousness. Others carried Hurrian honorifics. This melting pot made Jebus both strong and spiritually conflicted. Scholars like Edward Lipinski have debated the Jebusites' true identity. Were they Amorites, Hurrians, or Israelites in disguise? The evidence suggests they were a composite people, a blend of local Canaanites, Egyptian migrants, and Hurrian elites. This explains their resilience. They were not a single fragile tribe, but a coalition deeply rooted, fortified by culture and faith. And yet, for all their strength, the Jebusites would face their greatest test in the days of King David. In our next chapter, we will witness the clash of kingdoms, the shepherd king versus the fortress city, David against the
Who will break the
Jebusites,
covenant statue
and
over
we
the
will
wall?
uncover why God allowed
Before
their
us stands
stronghold